The Collectors. Chapter 6. Remi put his hand on the girl's shoulder, but, unlike with Doug, she rolled toward him. Remi looked up at Doug, and the other man mouthed the word name to him. Remi turned his gaze back to the girl and swallowed dryly. Hi, my name is Brick. Remi looked at Doug once more. The man rolled his eyes, but he also nodded and spun his hand in a circle, urging Remi to continue. What's your name? The girl rolled even closer to him, shifting fully to her side to look up at him. She curled her knees into her stomach.
Lucinda?
She said over a broken sob. Her gaze met his. Her white eyes shone with tears, making him think of a heavy fog settling over a lake. Her once brown skin, covered in layers of glittering death, looked like a sandy shoreline along her eyes, and the white veins dragging away from their corners, cupping her round cheeks and skipping down her neck in odd patterns to disappear into the collar of her top, made him think of cliffs so tall that clouds ran off their edges like waterfalls. As his gaze remained locked with hers, he could almost see himself standing at the edge of one of those cliffs, teetering.
Now ask her if she knows what happened.
Doug's voice yanked Remi back to the present, and fear rushed through him. He tensed to snatch his hand away.
No, don't break contact. Keep your hand on her and your eyes locked. You cannot look away until the greeting is finished.
How will I know when it's over?
You'll know.
But how?
Kid, just do as you're told. Ask her if she knows what has happened.
Remi rolled his lips together in frustration. How was he expected not to ask questions now that it was an option for him? Nevertheless, he bit his tongue and focused his attention on the girl once more. Do you know what's happened to you?
Lucinda.
Doug inserted quietly.
Say her name often to confirm the connection.
Lucinda, do you know what happened to you? Remi said obediently.
I'm not sure,
she said, water sliding down her cheeks.
Ask her if she would like you to tell her.
Do you want me to tell you what's going on? Remi parroted. She seemed to think for a moment before she shook her head and shut her eyes, turning her face away from him into the concrete, but not jostling his hand out of place. Oh, okay, is all Remi could think to say. There was a heavy sigh from his side, and he looked up to see Doug. The man was still crouched beside him, but his head was thrown back as if he were begging for help from heaven. It didn't work, Remi said dumbly.
Well, that's not my fault, Brick.
Doug rose warily to his feet and gestured down at the girl.
Pick her up.
What? Why?
Your job isn't done yet, and I don't think you want to wait here kneeling on the ground until she's ready to complete the greeting.
I can't just leave her here? Doug's gaze sharpened to a glare. I mean, she'll find me whenever she's over this. Remi gestured to the girl, slowly curling herself into a tighter and tighter ball on the ground. Looking at her, he felt a twinge of regret as the words left his mouth.
I know this is new to you and all, Brick, but I gotta say I'm finding you really dislikable.
They always find their way back to me.
Stop talking. You're not making it any better.
He gestured down at the girl once more before turning and walking away.
Pick her up and follow me.
Remi hesitated for another moment, eyes on Doug's back as the man moved slowly down the street. Remi pulled his hand away from the girl, but did not otherwise move. He had never voluntarily touched one of the spirits before. Earlier today, he had grabbed Lucinda's hand as they ran away from the beast on the bridge, and he had just had his hand on her a second ago, but that was different. He felt like if he did this, something would change. Something he would not be able to change back. So he hesitated. And kept hesitating.
Get a move on, Brick.
Remi looked up to see Doug, stopped at the end of the block, standing at the corner.
Let's go,
he snapped, waving his hand in a come here gesture. It made that warm thing building in Remi break. No. He stood up, leaving the girl on the ground. I'm not going anywhere with you until you answer some of my questions.
We don't have time for that.
Make the time. Doug's hands fell to his hips, and he cocked his head to the side. When he opened his mouth to say something more, Remi cut him off. Look, I've done what you've asked at every point, and you obviously need me to finish whatever this is. Answering my questions now is more than fair. Doug licked his lips and then let his head fall forward. Remi watched him take 2 long, deep breaths before he began moving back down the street toward him.
You get 3 questions in 3 minutes, kid. And then you pick up the girl and you follow me of your own volition, or I make you.
Fine, Remi agreed, holding his ground as the older man approached him. Doug stopped a few paces away from Remi and stared the younger boy down.
Well, come on, what are your burning questions?
And Remi's mind suddenly went blank. He had so many questions, years of them constantly floating around his head, but nothing came to mind now. Remi's eyes scurried frantically from Doug's face to the brick wall at their side, to the gray cement obscured by the still crying Lucinda at his feet. What did he ask?
That's 30 seconds down, Brick. We could already be halfway to the CCC.
What's the CCC? Remi asked, without thinking. Wait. He tried to take it back, but Doug was already shaking his head. He held up a single finger in front of him.
No takebacks. The CCC is an acronym for the Collector Community Center. Next question.
That barely tells me anything.
You want more details? Ask a more specific question.
Remi bit back his next words. That was unfair, but he wasn't going to waste the short amount of time arguing. And he also had other questions he wanted answers to. If only he could think of them.
A whole minute down, Brick.
God, just shut up! Remi squeezed his eyes shut and pressed the heels of his hands into his ears, trying to concentrate. Trying to find just one question. To pin down what was most important. He pulled his hands away from his head, gaze snapping to meet Doug's. Why can I see them? It was the single most important thing he needed to know. To understand. Doug tipped his head nonchalantly, side to side, as if the question did not hold the same weight with him as it did with Remi.
That's not something I can answer fully in the 90 seconds you have remaining, but I suppose the extremely simplified answer is...
He paused, folding his arms across his chest, and considered his words for a minute. Remi could feel his shoulders stiffen with every second Doug remained quiet. Finally, Doug opened his mouth once more.
Seeing them isn't really all that special. It's a genetic thing. It's sort of like how some people are colorblind and some animals can see like 70 more colors than we can even perceive. It's like you have inherited a cone or a rod in your eyes that helps you to perceive what's already there.
Doug paused again, then nodded to himself as though satisfied with his explanation.
Yeah, that's how it is. I mean, there's way more to it, but we don't have time for a formal lesson on the 7 perceptions. Next question.
Doug smoothly raised up a second finger and locked his gaze with Remi's once more.
And you have 15 seconds remaining.
Remi didn't need that time. He knew he only needed one more thing answered, and he was afraid that he already knew what it was. Is there any way for me to make it stop? Doug hesitated before he answered, but he looked like he was already regretting what he was about to say.
No, there isn't.
The older man sighed and dropped his hand onto Remi's shoulder for a short second before stepping away.
That's 3. Grab the girl. Follow me.